Here yet? You know anything about Al?
I haven't, no.
Okay.
Tim got a lot prettier.
That's all right.
So I think we'll probably start. I mean, we've got 4 folks here. A few rolls in the next few minutes. Are we good to go? Okay. Let's call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Sylvania Township. Can we please have roll call?
Mr. Boland.
Here.
Mrs. Seek. Here. Mr. Helberg.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 2nd, 2015 meeting?
Second.
Mrs. Seek.
Yes.
Mr. Boland.
Yes.
Mr. Helberg.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to swap around and do new business before the old business. So we have somebody here that we can maybe move along a little bit, and this way we can take our time discussing some of the old business that we had before. So with that in mind, we will look at a variance request for a swimming pool setback from a 10-foot required to 4-foot provided for the property located at 8720 Oak Hollow Road. First thing before we start, I'm going to ask if anybody here is going to testify on anything today. Please raise your right hand. And I will ask that, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll get the staff report first, and then we'll open up the floor.
The applicant is seeking a variance to Section 2218A private pools of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution, requiring the water's edge shall be a minimum of 10 feet from a side or rear property line. The variance request is for 6 feet in order to construct a 14-foot by 28-foot in-ground swimming pool with water's edge 4 feet from the rear property line. Section 2218A also requires that the pool be located in a rear or side yard behind the front line of the main building. There exists a 30-foot wide gas pipeline easement running the entire length of the property from north to south. This eliminates the option for the homeowner to site an in-ground pool on the east side of the lot. This easement also moves the location of the dwelling off-center toward the west side of the lot, leaving only a 7-foot setback on the west side and thus no room for a pool on that side either. The applicant has just over 36 feet in the rear yard from the rear edge of the house to the rear property line. There exists a utility easement along the rear 10 feet of the property. According to the applicant, there are currently no utilities situated in that easement. There is a considerable grade change in the rear yard sloping toward the northerly property line. For safety reasons, the applicant would like more room from the slope to the pool. The subject property backs up to the Carlisle Commons multi-family development currently under construction. This is a planned unit development that was approved by the Township trustees last year. The site plan, as approved, will not be significantly altered. The nearest unit in this development to the subject property will be over 200 feet away. The landscape-bounded buffer and a large retention pond will occupy most of the open space between the subject property and the closest multifamily units. The Sylvania Township zoning staff recommends approval of the requested variance. As this is an area variance as opposed to a use variance, the existence of an unnecessary hardship is not required for granting of the variance. There needs only to be a practical difficulty. Staff feels that the existence of the 30-foot gas pipeline easement coupled with the gradient of the rear yard qualifies as a practical difficulty. Further, the granting of this variance would create no substantial detriment to the adjoining properties or alter the character of the residential neighborhood. Staff maintains that the intent of the zoning resolution on this matter is to provide an adequate setback in regards to sight, sounds, and drainage between one resident's use of their pool and an adjoining resident's use and enjoyment of their backyard. Given that the large multifamily complex being built to the rear of the subject property will have a sizable buffer between the subject property and the closest units, and that this plan has already been approved and is extremely unlikely to be altered, this variance can be approved while still maintaining the intent and integrity of the zoning resolution. Staff does insist, however, that all other requirements of Section 2218 primarily those regarding fencing around the pool, be adhered, and that the applicant is aware of the inherent risk to constructing within a utility easement. While there may be no utilities under the rear easement at this time, should a utility opt to use that easement, the pool and the ground around it will be torn up in order to install their lines. The utility would not be liable for the replacement of the pool.
Okay. We'll go right to somebody here to speak on behalf of this matter.
Yes, my name is Walt Opachewski.
Sign in too, please.
I did sign in, thank you.
Okay.
Doug Howard asked me to come in, he's out of town today, and he and I both have read the write-up and the recommendations, and we do agree with them. And if you've got any questions, I'd like to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions from the board on this matter? So we've got, obviously, the front yard, where they're running north and south, we have the 30-foot gas line easement. We only have 7-foot on, I guess the characteristics of this property. Well, here's the one that has the pool. Anybody have any questions?
So where's the fencing for the pool? How far is that going to be out? Because we're going 4 foot from the edge of the property. Where's the fencing going to be?
In the backyard, I would assume it would be just short of the property line. And also probably on the left side too, would be just short. The right side, you'll have to stay out of the easement. I don't think the pipeline company will let them put a fence across the pipeline, so.
Do we have requirements for fencing for pools?
Yeah, they have to be fenced in. Either the pool itself needs to be fenced in, or the yard that they're in must be fenced in with a locking gate.
Okay, yeah, especially as close as it is to the, okay. Any other questions? Is this one that we want to confront, or is anybody prepared to make a motion now?
I'll make a motion, we accept the staff's recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Did you get that second? Okay.
We both remember. Mr. Boland?
Yes.
Mrs. Sieg? Yes. Mr. Halberg?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a good write-up. Helped a lot. Yeah. Okay, now we are back to old business. And the old business is the continued discussion of the placement of an expiration period for approved variances and approved conditional uses not acted upon within a set period of time. And to refresh everybody's memory briefly, Darrell had provided us some examples from some other areas. We had some productive conversation about whether it's a variance or a special use. It might be a good idea to have some limitations, but along with that, the option to extend that. We happen to have had some developers here last time that expressed an opinion that, things take longer than ever, and they would like the idea that you could maybe renew it, and I like the idea that they may have to appear before us to do that, but there are renewal options in there. So with that, I took some of what was out there and some of what was discussed, and I at least drafted something proposed, and understand, I guess, for this body, we don't have any decision-making authority on implementing this, other than we took something like this as a starting point, we might recommend it, and that request that the Plan Commission take a look at it, and then it'll go to the zoning board and then on to the trustees. So that's where we are. Any comments or suggestions or thoughts on where we're at with this?
I think it looks good, thanks for putting it together.
No problem. So just, again, what we have was, I guess, reading the record, the kind of recommendation we're promoting for the variance and for conditional use permit would be a 2-year term limit, and that they requested they could extend it every 2 years after the date of the initial permit being issued under the permit, and for the variance would be 2 years after the date the initial variance was granted. So 2-year terms with the right to come in and do successive 2-year renewals. I think that's it. Unless there is anything else, again, I would just say that this board would like to recommend this be passed on to the Plan Commission for a recommendation for some term limits.
Okay, I can get that rolling.
Okay. Any other, yeah, we're back to any other old business anybody has? Anything else anybody wants to discuss? If not, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seeg,
Yes.
Mr. Hilberg.
Yes. We are adjourned. Everybody had a nice
Mr.
holiday.
Boland has to stay an additional 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make up your time
No,
after
there's-
class.
I can't do that. I need that time period. I've been known